John F. Kennedy presidency is often viewed as a time of great promise and optimism for America, and many people believe he was working to make the country better. His vision of a new frontier included ambitious plans to tackle issues like poverty, civil rights, and space exploration, leading America's ingenuity and leadership during the Cold War. The figures lurking in the shadows saw fit that the President of the United States of America was a target that needed to become a shadow themselves. The question is why? Why did JFK get assassinated? And who was pulling the strings to pull off an audacious act that shook the whole world?
Many theories have been speculated about the death of the 35th President of the United States of America. There are many theories that include the Pentagon, the CIA, the mob, the Soviets, the Cubans, Mossad, or was it a lone shooter that went senile? The question remains if it was an act of a lone madman or this was a cover-up for a greater plan. Griffin stated that the information that was withheld about the JFK assassination was the names of the investigations and they knew they were doing illegal activities. Another author, Bona Meniger, stated in Mortal Error that it was a secret agent, George Hickey, who accidentally shot JFK when the first shot happened. This could also be backed up by the mystery second bullet theory. As we know, this isn't as straightforward as we want it to be. Many theories make the official decision from the Warren Commission seem flimsy. On the 18th of March 2025, Donald Trump released the remaining 80,000 files that have been protected by the Secret Service, such as the FBI and CIA. This now gives us, the general public, the answers that we have been waiting for since the death of JFK in 1963. Or did it? The information that I'm going to provide are from the documents that are released on the 18th of March 2025. The first document that I've been able to read is looking at Oswald's movements in Finland in October 1959 while he was in contact with the Soviet consulate. These are important documents as it shows not only with Oswald living in the Soviet Union, he was still trying to make contact with the Soviets while in other countries. Remember, JFK was murdered in November of 1963 and September/October of that same year. Lee Harvey Oswald approached the Soviet embassy in Mexico City in an attempt to get a visa allowing him to return to the USSR. The reports even state that it was also in November of 1963 Oswald was still trying to seek a Soviet visa, with the CIA noting that Oswald had a KGB case officer in Mexico City. We can also see how the agencies were trying to hide documents from the public domain. A letter written in 1978 which refers to August 1963 that there was a correspondence to the American vice consul of Oswald's whereabouts in Bulgaria. I have heard that one American defector, Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald, to Russia and he returned to the United States of America. This man, he preparing to assassinate President F. Kennedy. If we fast forward to 1991, a US professor, E.B. Smith, had several discussions in Moscow with Slava, who is a longtime friend and now deputy to the KGB director. It was stated that Slava reviewed KGB files to determine if Lee Harvey Oswald had been a KGB agent. He reviewed 5 thick volumes of files on Oswald. Slava is now confident that Oswald was not at the time an agent controlled by the KGB. From the description of Oswald in the files, he doubted that anyone could control Oswald, but noted that the KBG, which I believe is meant to be the KGB, watched him closely and constantly while he was in the USSR. He commented that Oswald had a stormy relationship with his Soviet wife. The file also reflected that Oswald was a poor shot when he tried target firing in the USSR. Johnson cited one particular document that he knows exists, but that he says he hasn't been turned over to the National Archives. The first one-on-one conversation between President Lyndon Johnson and CIA Director John McCone, right after Johnson took office after Kennedy's assassination. McCone was long suspected of withholding information from the Warren Commission, the panel Johnson created to investigate Kennedy's murder. According to Philip Shannon, author of A Cruel and Shocking Act, The Secret History of the Kennedy Assassination, McCone was kept on as a CIA director by Johnson and pledged full cooperation with the commission, which was led by Chief Justice Earl Warren. Shannon wrote in a 2015 Political article about his book's findings. He testified that the CIA had no evidence to suggest that Oswald was part of any conspiracy, foreign or domestic, but rather a former Marine and self-proclaimed Marxist who acted as a delusional lone wolf. That deception of Oswald was ultimately adopted by the Warren Commission in its final reports. But years later, Shannon said the CIA itself acknowledged that McCone had withheld information from Commission's investigations. The CIA itself acknowledged that McCone had withheld information from Commission's investigators. Further documents revealed with the CIA involvement. A newly declassified memo from November 1963 reveals how a CIA officer expressed alarm over Oswald's activities, including the fact that he visited the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico City weeks before killing Kennedy. However, higher-ups shockingly dismissed the concerns. While the files do not confirm a CIA hit, they do indicate the agency was either complicit or incompetent. A known theory of the second shooter. One of the explosive finds in the files is the evidence supporting the theory that there was a second shooter, something that has long been debated. The Warren Commission insisted that Oswald acted alone and that he fired 3 shots in 8.6 seconds. However, ballistic reports and witness testimonies in the newly released files say that does not add up. According to the documents, a shot may have come from the grassy knoll, which was an elevated area ahead of Kennedy's motorcade. The new suggestion seems to contradict the lone gunman theory. Back in 1979, the House Select Committee of Assassinations, HSCA, concluded that there was a high probability of a second shooter based on acoustic evidence. The new files support the theory with witness accounts. There is one suppressed statement from a Dallas bystander who was forced to remain silent by government agents, The Guardian reports. There are also mafia connections which we won't get involved in, but these were Chicago mob bosses training Cuban revolutionaries against Fidel Castro, with a tinge of rogue CIA elements. The motive could have been revenge, taking into account that the president's perceived betrayal during the Bay of Pigs alienated mafia figures who had lost Cuban casino operations to Fidel Castro's revolution. There was also an addition where a CIA memo details Officer George Jundus funneling $25,000 to an anti-Castro group that was linked to Oswald. This raised questions about the CIA's relationship with the killer. Another file revealed that there was intensified CIA surveillance of Oswald's Cuban intelligence contacts, but no action was taken further. An FBI record of a phone call received before Oswald's death predicted his murder by Jack Ruby, suggesting someone may have been aware of more than they let on. A marksman that was regarded as having a poor shot by the KGB operatives, with firing 3 shots in 8.6 seconds, with ballistic reports and witness testimonies in a new release file saying that does not add up. It is very plausible that Hickey, the CIA operative in the car behind, could have shot JFK by accident or on purpose. What you have to remember is Oswald was at the base in Japan where MK Ultra started. This was an operation led by the CIA trying to control people's brains with drugs. Oswald had clear connections to Cuba, to the Soviets, to communism, and weeks prior he was trying to get his visa to go back to the USSR. Even the CIA higher-ups ignored a CIA operative on Oswald's activities in Mexico City going to the Cuban and Soviet embassies weeks before JFK was murdered, with the Soviets denying that Oswald was ever a KGB agent. However, they also said that he had a bad shot while at the firing range. Now for me, could this have been a cover-up between the Soviets and the USA acting together to take out JFK? To then put the blame on Oswald, knowing that he's a communist fanatic, and it's very clear that he went to the Cuban and Soviet embassies in Mexico City, living in the Soviet Union for 2 years too, trying to get a visa. Was this the scapegoat they needed so they could put the blame on Oswald? The Soviets said Oswald could not be controlled. Was there one thing that could control him? His wife was Russian. His love was communism. He wanted to go back to the Soviet Union. Could they have said to him, "You're going to shoot at the president, but not kill him, and in return you have full immunity and live in the Soviet Union for the rest of your life"? Was that the reason Jack Ruby killed Oswald? Because he knew Oswald was going to tell the truth about the connection between the USA and the Soviets to get rid of JFK. Like I stated, the Soviets themselves said Oswald couldn't be controlled. Oswald was at the facility where MK Ultra started in Japan. Was it true that his weakness was communism, his love for the Soviet Union, wanting to go back? His wife was Russian. Did he feel like a stranger in America? And that's how they made him take the blame for the murder of JFK. Now, I will continue this research and report back to you. Any new updates from my discoveries or from other people's discoveries, I will create a video for you guys to watch. So please subscribe and tune back in. Let me know down below what you think. Do you think my overall opinion on this is too far-fetched, that the USA and the Soviets would work together? Do you truly think Oswald was working on his own with all these connections next to him, but apparently no one cared? Apparently the higher-ups in the CIA didn't want to investigate weeks prior to Oswald assassinating JFK. And if you don't think it's that, what theory do you think it is? There are many documents that are being sifted through right now as we speak, as you watch this video. So let me know down below what you think. Give me a subscribe, turn the bell on. I'm going to try and keep up to date with all the new information that's being released. But so far, there has been no blame on the CIA or the Soviets, but more incompetence on the CIA's part, with the Soviets saying, hey, he wasn't a KGB agent, he acted alone. But could information just be left out? Were the CIA ever going to write up any form of operation? Were there going to be rogue CIA operatives that are very high up that are just going to not disclose this? And whenever they get asked a question, they're going to hold back information. We already know that with the CIA director at the time wasn't given all the information to the Warren Commission. So let me know down below what you think. With all this information being released, is this just a cover-up to distract us from one thing that they don't want us to really see? Where present-day people with influence, celebrities, politicians, businessmen, people that dictate our society, that are involved in. Is this just another ploy? Get away from heinous crimes in the present day.